Hello everyone. In case you did not know, African leaders overload their citizens with pain and fear. Let us put that aside for another day. We are talking Tanzania. Political parties play a vital role in steering a nation's development, serving as platforms that bring together diverse perspectives. Tanzania, rich in cultural heritage, exemplifies this through the enduring influence of Chama cha Mapinduzi, a party that has profoundly shaped its political identity. The party was formed on February 5, 1977, through the merger of the Tanganyika African National Union, TANU, and the Afro-Shirazi Party, creating a marked pivotal chapter in the country's history. Under the visionary guidance of Julius Nyerere, CCM became more than a political entity. It became a symbol of Tanzania's fight for independence and its journey towards nationhood. Rooted in socialist ideals, CCM has shown remarkable adaptability across changing political landscapes. From its early days as the sole legal party to its evolution within a multi-party powerhouse, CCM has championed principles of social justice and economic fairness, leaving a lasting imprint on Tanzania's governance. Let us delve into the legacy of Chama cha Mapinduzi, exploring its historical depth, ideological roots, and enduring significance in the nation's political narrative. It is reasonable to argue that over time, the visionary spirit and principled leadership exemplified by founding figures like Julius Nyerere have gradually diminished under successive Tanzanian leaders. What once stood as a beacon of integrity, unity, and socialist ideals has, in many eyes, been diluted by political pragmatism, centralization of power, and waning commitment to the values that shaped the nation's early path. In the annals of African leadership, few names resonate with the moral clarity and visionary depth of Julius Nyerere. As Tanzania's founding father, Nyerere championed unity, integrity, and a brand of Africa socialism that prioritized human dignity over material gain. His leadership was not without flaws, but it was undeniably anchored in principle, a compass that guided Tanzania through its formative years. The past 2 weeks, nearly 6 decades since the formation of Chama cha Mapinduzi, the party Nyerere helped form, Tanzania stands at a political crossroads. While CCM remains the dominant force, its current trajectory raises pressing questions about the erosion of the values that once defined it. The recent 2025 presidential election, in which President Samia Suluhu Hassan secured 97% of the vote amid opposition bans and deadly unrest, has cast a long shadow over Tanzania's democratic credentials. What was once a party of liberation and inclusion now faces accusations of authoritarianism and political exclusion. The spirit of Nyerere, who voluntarily stepped down from power and encouraged open debate, seems increasingly distant in a landscape marked by internet blackouts, closed-door inaugurations, and silenced dissent. Can you believe that the inauguration was held in a barracks? It is fair to say that the positive spirit of Nyerere has been diluted by successive leaders who have prioritized control over consensus. The CCM party of today, while still invoking his name, often appears more concerned with preserving dominance than nurturing democracy. Yet, the legacy of Nyerere is not lost. It lives on in the inspirations of Tanzanians who continue to demand transparency, justice, and genuine representation. His vision remains a benchmark, not just for nostalgia, but for accountability. As Tanzania charts its future, the question is not whether it remains Nyerere's, but whether it honors him. That answer will be found not in speeches or statues, but in the courage to restore the values he once embodied. The legacy of Nyerere lives on not just in institutions, but in the conscience of the people. The riots and protests during Tanzania's recent elections are not merely expressions of political frustration. They are echoes of Nyerere's enduring ideals. The current demonstrations are a reflection of Julius Nyerere's legacy. Demand for justice. Nyerere championed social justice, transparency, and participatory governance. The public unrest following the exclusion of opposition candidates and the overwhelming victory margin of 97% suggests that many Tanzanians still hold these values dear and are willing to fight for them. Grassroots mobilization indicates that Nyerere believed in empowering the masses. The fact that protests erupted across urban and rural areas shows that his voice of civic engagement remains embedded in the national psyche. Moral resistance. Rather than passive acceptance, Tanzanians responded with moral resistance. This is a trait Nyerere encouraged. He once said, "Freedom and development are as indispensable to each other as the two sides of a coin." The protests reflect a yearning for both. We have all witnessed that there is tension between legacy and leadership. While CCM was founded on Nyerire's principles, its current trajectory, marked by authoritarian tendencies and suppression of dissent, stands in contrast to his legacy. The protests are serving as a reminder that Nyerire's ideals are not forgotten. They live on in the people's expectations of fairness, inclusion, and accountability. In many ways, the unrest is a form of reclaiming Nyerire's vision, not through political speeches, but through action. It is a signal that Tanzanians still measure their leaders against the moral yardstick Nyerere left behind. Many observers have raised concerns about the authoritarian tendencies in her administration, especially following the 2025 presidential election. Africa is so full of dictators, and they seem to share their bad habits with one another. Look at what happened in Kenya during the unrest. Ruto did not care when hundreds of demonstrators ran out of oxygen. The police continued with their crackdown on unarmed demonstrators. Now, in Tanzania they are doing exactly the same. The 2025 election saw opposition parties barred from participating, and Hassan won with 97% of the vote. This is a margin that raised questions about democratic integrity of this woman called Hassan. Protests erupted nationwide, resulting in hundreds of people losing their lives, and an internet blackout, which many viewed as a crackdown on civil liberties. And then, to top it all, Hassan's administration decided to opt for a closed-door inauguration. Her swearing-in ceremony was held in a restricted military venue, rather than in a public space, further fueling concerns about transparency. When Hassan first took office in 2021, Hassan was praised for lifting bans on media outlets and engaging with opposition leaders. These moves were seen as a positive departure from her predecessor's hardline stance. In the eyes of many Tanzanians, the promise of democratic renewal under President Samia Suluhu Hassan has faded into a troubling reality. This is a government that is increasingly being defined by control, exclusion, and repression. Hassan is accused of steering Tanzania towards authoritarianism. This is a claim that finds disturbing validation in the events surrounding the 2025 presidential election. Hassan's landslide victory might seem impressive on paper, but it came at a cost of democratic integrity. Major opposition parties were barred from participating, and 2 leading candidates were disqualified without transparent justification. This result was not a contest, but a coronation. To call her a dictator may sound harsh, but when opposition is silenced, protests are crashed, and elections are engineered, the label becomes difficult to avoid. Tanzanians deserve better. They deserve leaders who listen, not just rule. They deserve elections that reflect their will, not the will of the ruling party. The world must pay attention. Democracy in Tanzania is not dead, but it is under siege. And the longer silence prevails, the deeper the damage becomes. Many African leaders cling to power due to a mix of historical legacy, weak institutions, personal ambition, and fear for losing control, often leading to authoritarian and extended presidencies.